Rise and shine right here. You would find us. This is Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwebike.
And I'm Chioma Okohe.
All right, in the beat, we'll be heading straight to our newspaper headlines to see all that we have for you this morning. And right after that will be our main conversation also for today, while we get everything all sorted out for you. Please do well to be part of our community. Have a say in what we say. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV 7. And with us to do justice to all that we have, newspaper headlines, and if possible, take us through our main conversation is Emeka Madunago, journalist and public affairs analyst. Good morning, Emeka, and welcome.
Yeah, good morning.
Emeka.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Oma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Henry.
for being around.
Yeah, it's a good week and it's midweek already, so it's quite interesting.
Very well.
Okay, let's get down to business, and we started with a sad story. Yes, it's actually it was a rain of tributes on Tuesday for the late Senator Ifeanyi at the Senate chamber. Vice President Kashim Shettima was at the chamber to join senators in paying tributes to the newly born senator. It was during a valedictory session organized by the Senate to bid farewell to the Anambra South senator who died on July 26.
All right, that's what we have, Emeka. Let's talk about this for a bit just before we get into other matters that made rounds across different social media platforms, but particularly newspaper headlines. You are from Anambra, and I want to believe, is he your senator?
No.
It's not your senator.
But we're from neighboring towns.
Okay, beautiful.
But it just, that we're at the boundary.
All right.
You know, Anambra Central this way, my town. Anambra South this way, his own town.
Oh, beautiful. So we'd love you give us perspectives, you know, on what the legacies this great man has left behind. He's been there for quite some time. He's done so much. He is one of those persons I love to believe that had every intention of being in the political sphere more than anyone, if possible, in Anambra State. So speak to us.
Yeah, Ifeanyi was a man of the people. He was a grassroots politician. He loved his people, and his people loved him. You know, I mean, he was someone who, I never met him personally. I never had anything to do with him. You know, but from the things I heard about him, from the things I saw him do, you know, I came away with this impression that he was someone who had a lot to give, you know, to his people. I mean, here was a man who funded a vigilante, a vigilant service in his hometown in Nnewi. From his pocket, he got people recruited, bought vehicles, bought walkie-talkies, bought cameras, bought solar lights, gave to, you know, different communities under the local governments in Nnewi. He gave to my town, Nnobi. He gave to Ibuku. He gave to, you know, a number of towns around us, even while being antagonized by the state governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, which was very sad. Look at the lives that have been lost. If only we can have politicians who look beyond the pettiness, selfishness, this country will be much better. But Soludo was more interested in fighting him, in downgrading him, in downplaying everything he was doing. Whereas lives were being lost. Insurgents were taking lives. And then what happened? In one of the attacks, when these criminals came to my town, they killed somebody in my Senate family. And then they were being, you know, in their effort to repel these fellows, you know, when they wanted to attack somewhere in Nnewi, you know, the fights spilled to my town. And then two people were killed, 2 people were injured. One of the victims, a small boy whose intestines came out, but thankfully he was operated upon. You know, he's still in the hospital.
Wow.
Okay.
And then you look at least there's been some measure of confidence. Even the action, Ubah'S actions, you know, also, you know, helped, because you look at the last Christmas, you know, a lot of people came back from abroad. You know, people came back home. Why? In part, due to the efforts of security agencies.
So they were
you
much
know, and
confident in the security.
Yes, and then Ifeanyi also, people like Ifeanyi, not just him, people like him gave people the assurance that they could come back home and, you know, reach out, you know, and there were a lot of festivities. You know, unfortunately, you know, some of these fellows attacked his convoy some years ago, killed his PA, killed some other people. But sincerely, you know, I believe, you know, Ifeanyi, well, people have their own perceptions, and some say a lot of negative things about him. Even since he died, people have not stopped saying what they feel about him, some negative, some positive. But the question I ask them is this: in your own little corner, can you say you are making any impact whatsoever? Can there be 2 or 3 people that can point to you as someone who's shown the light to them? Or are you just a destroyer? You know, a verbal destroyer, you know, just destroy with your mouth. Whereas you cannot think of anything with which to raise people's lives and make people's lives better. That's where the difference lies. In all humanity, we are all human. We are all, you know, we are born and we will die one day. But the question is in between. What impact have you made? And I think for somebody like Ifeanyi, he lived well. He had his own controversies. Yes, no doubt about that, which some people have tried to play up. And he was owing banks. How many people in this country are not owing banks?
But how about the famous Kostari saga?
Yes, I know. These are 2 brothers who did business. Unfortunately, some sad things got in between. You know, and then they now took their disagreement as brothers to the public sphere. But let me tell you something. Like my people say, that if you take your family matters outside, people will help you destroy, you know, I mean, destroy it. But if you can manage your family issues, you know, as a family affair, sort them out, you will see that, you know, when you come out of family meeting and people see you, you know, laughing, definitely, you know, some hard truths may have been exchanged. And then at the end of the day, you know, there was some backslapping and all of that. So this was a sad thing. He was owing. Yes, he's a businessman. Many businessmen in Nigeria today are owing billions. Not because they mismanaged the funds they borrow from banks, but the economic situation.
Thank you so much.
The economic situation has, in fact, can you imagine, look at big companies closing down and leaving the country? How much more? You know, these are multinational companies. How much more Nigerian companies?
Thank you so much, Emeka Madnago. Now, without wasting much time, let's get into another particular story. Now, we're taking daily from the Daily Trust newspaper. And the big story here, traditional rulers not afraid of governors. That is coming from the Sultan, and we have about 3 writers to that particular story. Says no project greater than educating youth. Our safety rests on their empowerment. That is coming from Shatima. And lastly, leaders must emulate Sarodra's leadership strategy. That is coming from the ex-Niger governor.
And also on the top strip of the Daily Trust newspaper, we have 5 soldiers, 30 terrorists killed as Boko Haram attacks troops in Borno.
Moving on, still on the top strip, 13 months after Tinubu yet to appoint ambassadors.
Yes, and also we have why Enugu is spending 33% of budget on education, and that's coming from the governor.
Okay, let's get to the bottom strip. Nigeria's debt profile to hit 138 trillion naira as Tinubu seeks fresh 1.8 trillion naira.
And also federal government lifts a ban to post core members to banks and others.
Okay, moving on. UN permanent sits, Nigeria lobbies G20 leaders.
All right, Emeka, let's talk about education for a bit. You know, while coming to work today, just by the beggar on the bridge there, you see scores of young children between 5 and 10 littering all about the place. These are children that should be in school. They are out of school. Now, when I watched them, what was just ringing in my mind was these are people that should be in charge of different portfolios in the future if they were given the opportunity to go to school. Mba is doing a great job here. 33% of the budget going to education. But do you think that is enough?
Well, the same Ubah, I need to ask him a question. 34 states and the FCT have yet to access their 2024 Universal Basic Education Commission matching grants. Only Katsina and Kaduna have accessed theirs for this year. And you are allocating 33%. When the year is ending, you have not accessed the grant. Why? Because you're supposed to provide your own matching grant in order to get that grant. That is where the problem begins from. You know, where governors treat serious policy issues so lightly, as if they don't matter. And then they just come and tell you 33%. What does it represent? Break it down for us. The media should ask critical questions. Break it down for us. How many classrooms? How many books? How many teachers are going to be recruited? What new things are going to be introduced, you know, to the teaching methods? What kind of teaching are you doing? Can you imagine that there was a company, an American company, that came to Nigeria wanting to get any university that had, you know, that had a facility for artificial intelligence? They searched all the universities in Nigeria. Not one. Forget all those universities that they say they are distant. Not one had any facility that had anything to do with artificial intelligence. Do you know the company, the company, Google, that was Google, now went to Ghana, where they got one university, and they located that AI facility in that university in Ghana. Now, do you know how bad that is? That means we've not even treated the basics, universal basic education. When we are not accessing basic education grants, is it AI that is up there that we'll get to? We must get our priorities right. We should stop all this, you know, mockery and all of that. Those children you see on the street, it's an agenda.
It's an agenda.
There are people benefiting from having those children on the streets. Yes. There are people who know those children should be in school. But instead, the money allocated to education, they steal the money. They use the money to send their own children abroad. And they keep the children of the poor, the weak, the vulnerable out on the streets. And that is why you see, you know, we're talking of about 22 million out of school children. It's not as if those children cannot be sent to school. It's not as if those children cannot be engaged in skills acquisition. It's not as if those children cannot be taken off the streets. What does it take to take children off the streets? After all, some states have actually, you know, some states have actualized that, you know. So why is it difficult? Northern Nigeria needs to ask itself a question. Because those children out on, and I'm calling out the governors of the northern states, that those children out on the streets are a time bomb. That first of all, you see the rain, when the rain falls, it doesn't fall on one man's compound. You understand? But the thing is this, if the sky is going to fall, like they say, it will fall first on those who are the tallest, you know, before getting down to other people. So those of them who are closest to where these things are happening, unfortunately, will bear the brunt. They had better stop this policy of recruiting these children, whom they use during elections. They give these children voter cards to vote for them during the election, to inflate the election figure. But at the end of the day, they will cry, oh, we have too many Amajiri, oh, we have this and that. Yet it is your deliberate policy that is keeping those children on the streets.
Thank you,
they had better stop today.
Thank you, Emeka.
And let's not forget the hashtag end bad governance protests, of course, that led to the minors. And
that is another issue that is yet to be finalized. Okay, before we get into another daily, let's look at this. Nigeria's debt profile to hit 138 trillion. That's to number 6, fresh 1.8 trillion naira. You were saying that the Alamajuris and the children that are yet to go to school is a ticking time bomb.
Yes.
Now, what do we have to say about our debt profile about to reach 138 trillion naira? Yet, we aren't a producing nation. And even our refineries, just one is working. And a lot of things are happening. And at this point, we are about to hit 138 trillion naira. What is the economic situation of Nigeria, at least come 2025-26?
You see, first of all, our debt to GDP ratio has risen. I think when Tinubu came, it was around 35 or 30%. Now I think it has gone up to like 55%, which is dangerous. Borrowing in itself is not a bad thing. But are you borrowing for consumption or are you borrowing for production? Are you borrowing for recurrent expenditure? Are you borrowing for actual capital expenditure? Because if you look at it, in the last 15, 20 years, the EFCC chairman, Olukoyede, said something last week, that in the last 15 to 20 years, that no budget has reached 30% implementation. So when you hear all those big figures, how much cash backing? Part of the money that Tinubu is trying to raise now is to cover the deficit of the outgoing budget, the 2023 budget. They are banking on borrowing 13 trillion for next year's budget. They are banking on tax revenues when the 4 tax bills have not even been passed. They are banking on that. Then banking on that exchange rate, will come down to 1,004. I'm really eagerly waiting to see how they will achieve that. And then banking also on a budget benchmark of $75 when it has been projected at 2025 that oil price will come down to $68.68. Because already Donald Trump, who is coming in as the new president of the United States, has said that he will try to pump more oil and increase production to 13 million barrels per day. Saudi Arabia is also eyeing 12 million barrels per day. So when you look at it, there are already whispers that these things cannot be achieved because why? Iran is still there, pumping very well. Libya is pumping very well. So what is going on? We are projected to enter 2025 with an oversupply of 1 million barrels per day. Oversupply. So what it means is that oil prices will stay low. Even there's been a projection that oil prices might drop to $60 per barrel. So we're going to be left with a shortfall right now. Right now, oil prices are just about $71 per barrel. So our projection is already wide of the mark by about $4 to $5 per barrel. While we are talking of increasing oil production, yes, we have increased to 1.8 million barrels per day, as as reported. And then now the target is to get to 2.06 million barrels per day. An ambitious target if they can stop the mindless theft of oil, by the guys doing it. But all in all, we are still running an unrealizable budget cycle. Year in, year out, unrealizable budgets. Budgets that are not funded. Budgets that are so beautiful in name, but are just bereft of any substance. And that is what the 2024 budget, as it was, has already even failed.
So, in summary, Bola Tinubu might be in a fix right now in running a sustainable economy.
No, he's hoping that, of course, maybe there might be a war somewhere that will, maybe push oil prices to maybe $75, $80 per barrel. He's hoping that the 4 bills, tax bills, before the National Assembly will sail through so that they can push VAT up, and then do some quick things. Hope. But let me tell you, when you're hoping, let it be based on solid facts. Why? Because you are not the only one projecting. Other countries are projecting. And that is why we must expand our revenue base. We must do something about our solid minerals. We must do something about agriculture. Because do you know what? The main thing anchoring our GDP now is services. Services now has overtaken agriculture. Agriculture was the mainstay of the GDP for over 15 years. Now, we are pushing agriculture to the side, and we're bringing in services. But let me tell you, even a country like India that depends a lot on services also does puts his hand in other things, so that it can have a balanced economy. But I believe, because I'm also a farmer, apart from being a businessman and a journalist, I believe that we must go back to agriculture and agro-processing. The high price of food items in Nigeria is very bad. The high price is very bad. We must do something about that. We must also do something about local content, raising our local content. What it means is that, look at Germany that doesn't cultivate cocoa. Germany has made more money from the sale of chocolate than all the cocoa producing countries in Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and the rest of them. Why? Because we don't emphasize value addition. What we just do is harvest the cocoa and
Thank
you
you,
know,
Emeka.
sell to Chinese, they just carry abroad. We must do something about it.
Thank you,
True.
Emeka.
So while we wait for the miracle to happen, let's move on to
The last daily,
the last daily
actually,
for today,
yeah.
the Punch newspaper. The big story here: PDP crisis. Dama going to remain chair as NWC state chairman meet, and we have just one rider to that particular story. Pro-Wike governor insists on keeping Damagun till October 2025 as next meeting tops agenda.
Okay, on the top strip, APC PDP governors disagree over oil revenue sharing.
And also we have on the bottom strip here 4 UK-based Nigerian students jailed over street fight.
Okay, and still on the Punch newspaper, and still on the bottom strip, we have agents petition NCCA as foreign airlines sell tickets in dollars.
Wow. So let's finally maybe look at this. AG uncovers 4.6 billion naira unapproved spending in Ubah'S ministry. Emeka, would you ever have believed that such would be made known? No other person but Dave Umahi, the blessed one,
I'm
the
not
chosen
surprised. I'm not
one,
surprised.
supposedly
If you,
chosen
if you
one.
go to some parts of the country, you know, I traveled recently to Bayelsa State. Because some parts of the country, Omar is using concrete, you know, in road construction. And look at that has affected, that's one of the things that affected the price of cement. Cement is between 9,000 and 10,000 across the country, you know, which should not be. It's a disincentive to providing housing, you know, to taking care of other projects, you know. So now, unapproved project, you see Umai in his overzealousness, you know, to please President Tinubu, you know, I won't be surprised if he's engaging in that. You know, look at the Lagos-Calabar highway. It's not approved now. It wasn't appropriated. So that's even bad enough. That one is bad enough. Badagry to Sokoto highway, was it appropriated? No. So what is all of that for? Just, you know, do a little on the Lagos side. Maybe enter Ogun State a bit. Then go to the edge, maybe from Calabar, just do a little, you know. Then Badagry to Sokoto, do a little from Badagry. Then do a little from Sokoto. And then use that to campaign. Because nobody is going to be foolhardy now to go into the forest now to see where the road ends. So that you don't fall into the hands of kidnappers or bandits, you know. So these people are just joking with people's sensibilities. They are joking with people's emotions. You see, all of these things are not the things that will put food on the table. Yes, what we want is inclusive governance. Governance that the people love to participate in. And now, all of these things, yes, it's good to build roads and all that. But like one politician once said, in Rotimi, she said, when you're tarring roads and you're not tarring the roads inside people's stomachs, talking about stomach infrastructure as enunciated by my brother, Ayo Fayoshe, then you are missing the point. And then you're alienating the people from governance. I think I'll advise my brother Umahi, you know, Dave Umahi, to take things easy. Let him realize that the first goal in the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, the first goal number one is just towards end poverty.
Yes.
If those projects he's doing are not geared towards ending poverty, but just to show that he's working, then I'm afraid that, you know, history will not speak well of him.
Very true. We are equally afraid that history will not speak well if those in authority fail to do what they need to do. Thank you so very much, Emeka.
Thank you for your time
today, Choma.
Yeah.
Thank you as always.
Thank you, Henry. And when we return, it is more to do about who the president's authentic spokesman is, as Daniel Bwala's appointment is reviewed even before he could say the first word on behalf of the president.
That's right. And for those who are familiar with the story, the real trouble may just be getting started.
Why not stay back and find out?